There are a couple different ways you could look at the war right now. You could accept the White House's version. Donald Trump insists that Iran wants a deal and that the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, says that negotiations with Iran are robust, and Trump is outright dismissing concerns about conditions on the USS Lincoln as fake news. On the other hand, you could choose not to accept the White House's version, which they are offering no facts to back up their views. Reports overnight say a ship was hit on the Strait of Hormuz, damaging the engine room and causing a crew casualty. The Wall Street Journal says American officials are worried Oman could help broker a nuclear deal that is more favorable to Tehran. That is on top of its reporting that Iran is looking to now expand the war, as Trump says Tehran should put up the white flag of surrender. And the Pentagon is now admitting that a Navy destroyer was without power for 4 days last month, leaving the crew without drinkable water, meals, running toilets, or air conditioning during that period of time. Joining me now to discuss, David Rode, MS Now senior national security reporter, and Peter Baker still here. Okay, David, day after day, the president keeps saying things like the Strait of Hormuz, it's open, everything is great, the U.S. is in control. And now we have another ship hit overnight and a crew member dies.
It is not open. The Trump effort to reopen it has failed. And then the other strait here, this is how the war is widening, is in the Red Sea. There's fighting there. It's another Wall Street Journal story about traffic being slowed down there. 4 sailors were killed on a ship in the Red Sea last week. So the president's narrative, according to the sources I'm talking to, and just basic fact, is false.
Peter, right now Oman is negotiating with Iran over the strait. And in the midst of that, we talked about it yesterday, the president threatened to bomb the you-know-what out of Oman, a U.S. military ally, for almost 50 years. I don't know how else to look at this, but that the United States is trapped in this war, and everything the president is saying and doing just isn't rooted in fact.
Yeah, it's so striking. You're right to point that out. We've gotten so inured to a president who is willing to say and sometimes do almost anything that somehow we've lost the capacity for shock. But in fact, to sit there and just sort of randomly, almost cavalierly threaten war against a country with which we have friendly relations is, in fact, a striking moment. And it tells us something that he wants to be belligerent with the countries that have been friendly to us. At the same time, he's once again talking about how he has such great respect for Kim Jong-un and North Korea, and he wants to stop military exercises because it's so mean to North Korea, which, by the way, has something like 60 nuclear warheads compared to 0 right now in Iran. And he says the whole point of the Iran war was to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. Well, on his watch and on President Biden's watch, North Korea has expanded its nuclear arsenal substantially without any kind of action or, consequence from the United States. You have a president who seems to think that Kim Jong-un is his friend and Oman is not.
Okay, we've been talking about this for days. We've been covering this story on this network for weeks. We now have the families of sailors on board the Lincoln furious that the president is dismissing their concerns about the conditions on the ship, saying it's fake news. And now we learned that a destroyer was without power for 4 days. What is the American public supposed to make of this?
That the U.S. Navy is under tremendous strain, that previous administrations maybe didn't build enough ships to be fair. But this is just an unforced political error by President Trump. There's no need to belittle these
going
sailors.
To war?
Well, there's the strategic error, but the
also an unforced political error.
And just on Oman, they're angry at the Omani foreign minister. I interviewed him right before the war started. He said the Iranians are willing to negotiate. And the administration rejected that advice. This was February 27th. I interviewed the Omani foreign minister. He was leading the talks. February 28th, President Trump chose to bomb. So that's why they're mad at Oman. But it is a basic political error to belittle the families of sailors and belittle sailors who are out on these boats for 12 months at a time. And we are unable to resupply them. Why? Because Pete Hegseth hid the fact that Iran destroyed the main resupply base that the United States has in the Gulf. He did not make that public in press conference after press conference, and that is, again, the way that they have mishandled this war. But just why would the president belittle our service members and their families? It just makes no sense to me politically.
It's astounding. All right, Peter, new but related topic. Jared Kushner, who we just need to remind our audience, again, is not a government employee, just met with both Hamas and Netanyahu about the Gaza peace deal. Is there any indication that there was any progress? And of course, we need to remind our audience, Jared Kushner has had a very close relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu his entire life. As a child, when Netanyahu would visit New York, he would stay in the Kushner home in New Jersey in Jared's childhood bedroom.
Yeah, whether he resents losing his bedroom for that or not, we don't remember. But Jared Kushner is an odd figure here because you're right. He's not a government official. He's somebody who's in the private sector, who's doing business in the Middle East, has billions of dollars of investment from the Saudis, is running around the region, making deals. At the same time, he's serving as an effective envoy for the president of the United States to Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas, interestingly enough. Now, remember, it wasn't that long ago, you and I, Steph, are old enough to remember when the president announced that he's got a deal between Hamas and ending this Gaza conflict. That was so far ago that we can't even remember what that deal was like because the Israelis rejected it. Hamas didn't agree with our definitions, and that seems to now be off the table. So we're trying to get something back on the table. Now, it is interesting and important that the administration, in the person of Jared Kushner, is not giving up. It's still trying. It would, the question of whether they're committed to trying to find some sort of a peaceful resolution in the Middle East is important. And they should be, we should take note of that. But what Jared's doing and what he's offering, the different sides and what, authority he has from the president of the United States, his father-in-law, we don't really know.
Yeah, my question is he committed because he actually wants to help create peace in the Middle East? Or is it so he can get the bulldozers in there to create the Riviera a la Gaza?